Good morning. In today's show, we'll be talking about the chemical reactions that affect our environment and the main causes of global warming. My teammates will be talking about it. Let's go with them.
Steps explain the carbon cycle, how carbon changes from one form to another as it is repeatedly being exchanged between the atmosphere, land, water, and the living beings. The absorption of carbon by plants from the atmosphere. In the atmosphere, carbon is usually present as carbon dioxide, CO2, one of the important greenhouse gases. Plants make food through the process of photosynthesis. They absorb CO2 in the air and in the presence of sunlight and water produce oxygen and glucose. The glucose produced is stored and used by the plants in growth. Through this process, plants act as a form of carbon storage for the planet and serve as means by which carbon is changed into a form that can be used directly by living things. The movement of carbon from plants into the animal world. The carbon absorbed by plants is transferred to animals through feeding. As smaller animals get eaten by bigger animals, this carbon is moved up in the food chain. The movement of carbon from living things to the atmosphere. When plants and animals respire, glucose stored in the plants and animals are broken down to release CO2, water, and energy. Through this process, CO2 is released back into the atmosphere. The movement of carbon from living things to the land. As plants and animals die or decay or decompose, the carbon found in them are released to the environment. When the decaying matter bodies get buried under the ground and are subject to high pressures and other physical and chemical changes for millions of years, they change into fossil fuels. Movement of carbon from fossil fuels to the atmosphere. When fossil fuels are burned in the power plants, factories, cars, and trucks, most of the carbon rapidly enters the atmosphere as carbon dioxide gas. Each year, more than 5.5 billion tons of carbon is released by burning fossil fuels. Of the huge amount of carbon that is released from fuels, 3.3 billion tons enters the atmosphere, and most of the rest becomes dissolved in seawater. Movement of carbon from the atmosphere to the oceans. The oceans and other water bodies soak up about a quarter of the carbon dioxide gas from the atmosphere. However, this uptake process is slow.
The main chemical reactions to carry out the process of carbon cycle are three: the photosynthesis, metabolism, and sedimentation. In the process of photosynthesis, as we know, the plants use carbon dioxide to produce oxygen. This is an endothermic and a single replacement reaction. In the metabolism reaction, the oxygen previously produced by the plants is used to now obtain carbon dioxide as a product. This is also a single replacement reaction. In the last reaction, the sedimentation, the carbon dioxide produced is absorbed into bodies of water like oceans and lakes.
Come from a variety of natural sources. Human-related emissions are responsible for the increase that has occurred in the atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution. The main human activity that emits CO2 is the combustion of fossil fuels as natural gas, coal, and oil for the energy and transportation means. Although certain industrial processes and land use changes also emit CO2. Carbon dioxide emissions in America increased by 12% between 1990 and 2010. Since the combustion of fossil fuels is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in America, changes in emissions from fossil fuels combustions have historically been the dominant factor affecting emission trends. Changes in CO2 emissions from fossil fuels combustions are affecting emission trends. Changes in CO2 emissions from fossil fuels combustions are influenced by many factors, including population growth, economic growth, changing energy prices, new technologies, changing behavior, and seasonal temperatures. Between 1990 and 2010, the increase in CO2 emissions corresponded with increased energy used by expanding economy and population. Although the economic downturn starting in 2008 influenced the decrease in emissions in 2009. Transportation emissions also contributed to the 12% increase, largely due to an increase of miles traveled by motor vehicles. Now, we'll go back to Oriana, who has some concerning information about the causes and effects in CO2. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Oriana, and I will talk about the causes and effects of the increasing concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide plays a very important role in natural processes such as respiration and photosynthesis. Without this gas, these basic processes would not be able to be carried out properly. Although carbon dioxide is very helpful in nature, it can also cause great harm if it's emitted excessively. Since the Industrial Revolution, which started in 1850, the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has increased notably. This is due to human activities like burning fossil fuels and carrying out land clearing and forest combustion. The excessive carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases in the different layers of our planet cause the recalled greenhouse effect. Without this process, life on Earth would not be the same, since it regulates Earth's temperature. The negative effects that occur due to the greenhouse effect are many. The most important are that the Earth's climate is changing because the temperatures are rising. This addition to the greenhouse effect is known as global warming, which causes increase in storm activity, melting of ice caps and poles, which will cause flooding of uninhabited continents and other environmental problems. Now Alexa will talk us about the chemical reactions involved in global warming.
Hi everyone, I'm Alexa Ferrara and I'm going to be talking about global warming and the chemical reactions it involves. Chemical reactions happen during global warming, which is known as the increase in the Earth's surface temperature due to the greenhouse effects. The greenhouse effects are caused by the presence of greenhouse gases such as methane and carbon dioxide, and these gases are produced in many different reactions. Examples of these reactions can be evaporation, condensation, combustion, compression, sea sequestration, respiration, whether it is anaerobic or aerobic. There's photosynthesis, there's precipitation, distillation, and those that involve oxidation or reduction. There's always endothermic reactions, and there are those who react directly with water. Examples that are more accurate about these reactions can be, for example, wood, since it causes natural gas to escape into the atmosphere, causing a cloud layer. The chemical reaction here is the oxidation of the wood fruit, and by a product we have the expulsion of carbon and hydrogen gas that enters the atmosphere and stays around for centuries. The energy of the sun which reaches the earth is in the form of extra radiation, and it is due to fusion. And this fusion is due to two nuclei of hydrogen into helium, and there is a loss of mass. Our last example is from carbon dioxide. It absorbs infrared radiation and it re-emits it. There is an absorptive material added to some of the IR radiation that would have escaped to Earth's atmosphere, so it gets redirected downward and raises the Earth's temperature. This can be represented as carbon dioxide plus upwelling photon equals carbon dioxide plus upwelling photon plus downwelling photon. Now we go back to the studio and hope you enjoyed this session.
The global warming is something we should be really concerned about because it involves us and our planet. Each one of us have the blame for the global warming because we are the ones who throw garbage, use in excess our car, leave the lights on, burn fossil fuels, and things like that. To try to reduce the gases like carbon monoxide and greenhouse gases, we should try to stop using our cars, use a bike or public transport instead, or we can gather like 3 or 4 people to go to one same place instead of using 3 cars with just one. We should also try to be more ecological, try to plant trees, to stop the cutting of them. We could be cleaner by not throwing garbage in the streets and trying to reduce the wastes we may. Reuse the things we can, paper, plastics, glass, and aluminum cans. And we should stop or at least decrease the burn of fossil fuels because these ones are the most important contributors of gases to the atmosphere. Conserving our planet clean by decreasing the pollution can make our planet live for many more years, and that way we could have a better life.
We should take care more about our environment and our bad management of the carbon cycle and its emissions. If not, later we will see the damage that we're causing.
Through this project, I can conclude that the best way to reduce global warming would be going eco-friendly. I mean, there's so much behind global warming that we don't actually know, but there are many ways in which we can prevent it from happening. And it would be, for example, carpooling would be a great way, and so would be trying to turn off the lights when you're not using them. Of course, saving water and saving energy would be a key ingredient for us.
I can conclude that it's really important to understand the process of carbon cycle and what the concentration of carbon dioxide does to the atmosphere to help with solutions to reduce the global warming, such as walking or using a bicycle instead of a car, using less heat and air conditioner, planting trees, turning off the lights when we leave a room, and also recycling.
My personal conclusion is that greenhouse effect and global warming are really affecting our planet. In order to stop this, we should start by ourselves, with little actions, like avoid using products that contain gases that could affect the atmosphere, and also try to use a car less. If the length that you're going is not too much, you can use a bicycle or just walk. Then we could take greater measures, like let know the industrial companies that they should create a more effective method in order for the gases that they emit to not be that harmful to the atmosphere. Thank you.